Good evening, Miss Pigman. Uh, my name is Quentin Fleming. I am a social worker with SOX, the Safe Off the Street Agency. It's finally nice to put a face with the conversation. Um, so can you tell me a little bit how to spell your first and last name and proper way to say it? Okay, that's fine. Um, I'm gonna go over a few things with you. Confidentiality, HIPAA. You know what HIPAA is. Okay, what HIPAA is basically is I cannot disclose any information without you signing a release saying that I can disclose information. The ROI, the release information that I had you sign on your way in for video and audio and photo, that will be because I'm filming our session today for my personal notes. No one else will see it, none of my colleagues, no one else. Just kind of a reference guide for me. Um, Anybody that you need to release information to, family member, anything, hospitals, you'll have to sign a release information for them as well before I can release that information. So what you say here stays here. Okay, so you understand all that pretty well. Okay, that's great. I was reviewing my notes, and you said during our initial phone conversation that you were seeking treatment. Okay. What was your drug of choice, and how long was you using? Okay, and your current age? Oh, a few years. What made you decide that you were just sick and tired of being sick and tired? You know that what you got going on in your life. And I think you mentioned in our own conversation that you were homeless, living. How's that going? What substance did you overdose on? Opiate. Um. So, can you tell me what led to your hospital stay? Was the overdose and being homeless, so that made you feel like you were? I know you mentioned that you felt like you had nobody in the world and that you were alone. Can I ask you a question? How many times have you told your mother that you would stop in the past? Right. So, that's something that you're going to have to work up to. And by seeking treatment, that's the first step and a great start. Excuse me. Well, I guess what we'll go over today are a few goals and a few things that might help you. I'm going to give you the hotline crisis number. It's 988. substance abuse, it's just like 911, only it's for substance use only. So if you find yourself in trouble, you can call 988 directly to you. They also have counselors that can talk to you. If you're just in your feelings and feeling like using, it's actually a new thing they started this year, and I think it's a great thing. And they've got some pretty good educated counselors. Some of them are recovering addicts themselves. We're going to work on some trigger mechanisms, how to keep you from being triggered. Like I know when I personally got clean, the bottom of a pop can was a trigger for me. And anytime I seen one flipped over, those thoughts of using and the ritual of my use uh, crossed my mind. I mean, it's took me a long time to actually get that out of my head that the bottom of a pop can have that much power over you. So the main thing is people, places, things that trigger you, kind of stay away from. And sure. Okay. So do you got like old haunts or rituals that you actually used to use? Like for me, I would get the pop can, put on Kevin Gates, load my rig, and do my business, and that was my ritual. You know, and you get addicted to the ritual, say as you do the dope. That's what we're going to work with. We're going to work with you so you can identify your triggers. Like, did you pack around the hot straw with you? Okay. So you snorted, or did you just eat your pain medicine, or how did you use? Okay. So, say you had a straw that you packed with you all the time. Seeing a straw is going to make you think you use it. Or say that you go by a place that you used to buy dope from, and it triggers you, making you think, hey, I bought a lot of dope there. Makes you think that thought process of you. It's anything that makes that emotional response inside of you that shows you, makes you feel like you want to use, or the remember wins. Remember when I got out of there? Remember when I done that? Because we have a tendency to glorify the good times and not the bad. So we'll work on trigger mechanisms. I would like for you to call at least one treatment center and do a pre-screen before our next session in a week. That's okay with you? Well, I mean, those bridges will come with sobriety. I mean, you got to remember that you've done a lot of damage in your substance use, and those will take time to build back. Trust is something that's easy to give but hard to get back. So, are you looking? I know you mentioned outpatient or inpatient. Which one are you kind of leaning more towards? I mean, that happens, and you should nothing to be ashamed of. And it's nothing that you should feel ashamed of. That's your disease. Drug addiction is a disease. It's a choice that we make. It's like choosing to get AIDS or choosing to get diabetes or choosing to get cancer. Once we've made that choice and we have a life altering disease that can be triggered, and for those of us that have it, it's a lifelong struggle. And just like with everything else, you have to take medicine. Our medicine is working a program, finding a sponsor, surrounding ourselves with healthy people, abstaining from any substance use, and just figuring out what caused our drug. Because um, drugs were the solution to our problem; they were not the problem. We use drugs to forget something or to get over something. That's why we started using. The thing about sobriety is you have to figure out what that was. What led you to use drugs to start with? What was you running from? What was you trying to cope with? Those are the things that you'll work out in treatment. And do you have any questions about that?
Would like to stay in this area if at all possible. I know sometimes you
Well, I mean, we'll see what we can do. There's several options in this area that may be able to help you. Um, Another goal I would like for you to do is to try to maintain sobriety for the next 24 hours. Um, well, here's what you do. Here's how you start it. Don't look at the whole 24-hour picture. Look at while we're sitting here during this session, you're not going to use. That's pretty much a given. I mean, I don't think you're going to bust up one right here and snort it on my desk. So that's all you have to focus on. After that, all you have to focus on is getting up out of that chair, walking to that door, walking to your vehicle, and going home. Think that far ahead. You're not going to use from that chair to that door. You're not going to use from that door to your car. You're not going to use from the car to your house or to the homeless shelter. You need to think that far ahead. Think minute by minute. And then when you think you got it a little better, think hour by hour. And that minute by minute and hour by hour will lead into 24 hours before you know it. And I also want you to keep a journal. If you don't mind, I'll give you some paper. If you need it before you leave. And just jot down your feelings and your emotions and jot down like these goals that I'm saying. Like when you feel like using, write it down. The time, the day, where you're sitting, how you're feeling. Put pen to paper and write it down. And if you still feel like you can't work through it, then call that crisis line. Someone there will be out to reach, talk to you, and can try to help you through it. They may not be able to talk you out of it, but they are here to listen. Okay.
want me to write like triggers down, what you call them triggers, like that's things that make me want to use, right?
Right. When a fleeting thought comes in your mind, something that makes you feel like you want to use, something to smell, something you see, something that somebody says, a song comes on the radio, it makes you feel like using or makes you think about when you used, that is a trigger. And what you do is you learn how to cope with them triggers by identifying them triggers. Once you identify the things that trigger you, you learn how to cope with them. Either remove yourself from that situation or change the channel. If it's the song, um, if it's a place you're at, remove yourself. If it's a smell, try to walk away and get away from it. I mean, just certain things you can do within the first 5 seconds to try to correct that line of thinking, and you get better at it. You do. I mean, it'll be like, oh, that used to trigger me. That used to make me think. And it's some happy thoughts that it brings back. Them releases of endorphins. So, as far as that goes, well, I also want you to do the pre-screen. I want you to try to keep a journal if you don't mind. I will get you some before you leave. I will actually let my secretary know, and she can get you some local ones.
Have you been looking for some already?
When I talk to you on your phone, on the phone visit, I already knew some, so I've got some numbers already that I can give you for local places that I've used in the past. Oh yeah, listen, there's a lot of different personalities in a treatment center, but y'all got one thing in common: you're all there to get clean, and you're all addicts, and y'all have the same disease. And you look at the commonalities, not the differences, and that's what helps you get through it. And it's going to be hard. Nobody wants to be in treatment. Nobody wants to admit that they have a problem.
There's some mean people or some people will fight all the time or something like that.
Have you ever been to jail? So you've never been to jail. This is like your real overdose and treatment will be like your first real consequence from substance use, other than losing your family. Okay, well,
Else, I just went from couch to couch, wherever. Stay high all the time, so I really didn't care. So and that's just been the last. Like I said, I've been using since I was 16 off and on. And when I say off and on, 16 tried it, smoked some pot, took a couple of pills, snorted them or something like that. And then I did good for a while in school. I was really good at school. And then, you know, college, went to parties, started drinking a lot, drinking led to more drugs, and got kicked out of college, lost my scholarship. I got mad. I got got jobs, and then this last few years, so on that, no work, no family, no health, no nothing.
the last few years, your substance use has progressed. I mean, it's progressive illness. We start out doing one or two and being able to cope and be functional, and then it's a progressive illness that eventually it brings us down to where we have our own personal rock bottom. My rock bottom is not the same as your rock bottom. Do you feel as though your overdose was your rock bottom?
I don't want to die.
I mean, that's a good place to be. I mean, I know when I was using substances, I was praying for death, but I didn't want to die. I mean, I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I was so beat down, and I felt like I had nobody in my life that I would pray for death and even tried to overdose several times. Me personally, that was my rock bottom. That's when I decided that it's time for a change or it's time for a casket. And you have to make that decision. If you're ready to die and you want to end it, then you need to try to reach out and say, hey, I need help. That's the time you say, I need help. And that's what you're doing right now. By seeking treatment, that's the first step. And then we have a problem.
Everybody thinks they want to die until they actually get close to
Right, right.
die. That was me anyway. It's like me close about it.
So, as far as your family goes, you said you were on the phone with your mother, so you still have her in your life. I'm gonna love you from a distance basis.
I still have her in my life. She answers the phone on occasion, not always. And I think she was just in a hurry that day and didn't look at the caller ID or something, or didn't recognize the number because I was calling her phone. So she answered it. It was me. We got me fight. Of course, because I asked for money, and I feel like
Yeah, what help you with that? I mean, they'll help build them relationships back. They'll teach you how to cope with things in your life that are difficult without using.
how long is it, basically?
Well, now there are variations. Long term is considered 90 days plus. Short term is considered 30 to 60. So if you want, if we get you into a long term treatment, it can be 90 days to 6 months plus. And They have most of them have programs that can help reintegrate you back out into society with jobs, help you with getting back into school, helping you do the things that you need to do life on life's terms. I suggest personally long-term treatment. When you overdose, obviously you're unmanageable, and when you're that unmanageable, right? I understand. When your life becomes unmanageable, we have to seek help and have someone manage it for us until we can get to a point in our life that we can manage ourselves. And that's what long-term treatment will be. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll set these goals. I want you to definitely do the journaling. I definitely want you to try to set that goal to do your best to stay clean within 24 hours. Do your best. I mean, I'm not asking for a miracle. I'm not asking you to push yourself, and I'm not putting any expectations on you. I just want you to do your best. If you mess up, we'll start over. That's the thing about it. We can always start fresh. Don't feel bad if you do, and if you do get 24 hours, give yourself a pat on the back. That's a major accomplishment, especially using for 16 years. Or since you were 16, rather. So I mean, you just take it one step at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, until you can be able to manage it. My secretary's got a list of numbers for you to call treatment centers. Most of them are long term. There is some 30 to 60 day ones on there, but they're all clearly marked which ones it is. Just call one of them within the week, one long term treatment facility before our next visit. Do a pre-screen and see where you're at. Maybe they have a bed, maybe they don't. Depends on how many beds they got. What they do is they have a certain number of beds, and if they're full, most treatment facilities will recommend a different treatment facility to try to help you get in. And if they don't, then we can move on to the next number and we'll call another one for you. Or you can call another one and do another pre-screen. They like for the individual to call so they can get a personal assessment of them, get a feel of like where they're at and what they're wanting and how they're doing. Okay, and
what if I get in before
that's fine. Um, most treatment centers will allow us to come up and visit if you would like. I can come visit you and see where you're at, see if you're liking it.
I
Yes.
tell Mr. Clinton that I got into treatment?
Well, during intake, could you say, you can say, can you call my social worker and notify them that I have found a place? And they'll call me, the treatment center will call me, and they'll say, blah, 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 it's time to release the information for you, and they have made it to treatment, long term, da, da, da. And any help you need with clothing, hygiene, and stuff like that, we can accommodate that too. To help you get in, shower shoes, stuff that you'll need while you're there that you really can't get outside. I understand. They get a lot of people come through there, but we got resources that we can help you get. It's not going to be like Gucci or nothing, but it'll be close to help you get into treatment. It'll be hygiene stuff, toothbrush, toothpaste, body washes, stuff like that. A few
As
clothes.
long as they clean, it's better what I got.
We will help. We will help you out with that. Okay. So the next thing is uh, planning our next visit. If you're not in treatment before then, would you like to do it a week from today at 4 o'clock? And we'll just meet here, same place. If you do you have transportation?
Yeah, I got a car and one of those Medicaid phones. I got that through my insurance because not Medicaid. I didn't have it when I got at the hospital. They signed me up for Medicaid, and that social worker over there, she helped me get a phone and stuff. But I still have my car.
Well, now, if you do get accepted to a treatment, you're more than welcome to call my personal number. I'll get make my secretary it to you. You can call me and just say, hey, I got accepted into blah, blah, blah treatment center, and we'll do what we can to get you in. Swing by the office before you go, maybe, and we can get you your clothes and stuff like that if you get in before we meet next. If not, by our next visit, I'll have all those things ready for you so that when you get into treatment, you can just load it up and take it with you. And when you get back, come back in next time, we'll check where you're at on your goals, see where you're at on your 24 hours. It may be by then, it may be 7 days. So, you know, but don't look that far into the future. Right now, the only thing you got to look forward to is making it to your car clean. After that, making it home clean. Or making it to the shelter clean. Don't look past it. That's as far as you need to look. Because when you start looking out into the future, it starts getting overwhelming. You think I can't make it that way. So just take it small spaces, small type steps at a time. And you'll get there. And I'll write down this crisis number for you. Like I said, up until this point, it was only 911 for people that's took mysterious pills, people that are overdosed and stuff like that. But now we have 988, and there's counselors on the other end helping people with suicidal thoughts, helping people with overdose, helping people with thoughts of using stuff like that that we never had before. So it's a great resource to have. Okay, I guess as far as it goes, we are done with this session, and I will see you next time. And I wish you the best. And if you need me, you'll have my number. Pick the phone up, call me, and we'll get you in treatment. We'll find you some help.